Hello, everyone, and welcome back to The Rundown. I will be your host today, Craig DeLuz, coming at you from the West Coast, the left coast, behind the Iron Curtain, otherwise known as the Sierras, and today is Monday Fun Day.
I stop what you're doing, cause I'm about to ruin the image of me that you're used to. I look money, a king bee making honey, see? Deep state, I hope you're ready for me. Now gather round, I'm the new sheriff in town. All my people rise up and stand your ground. Now drink up all the Diet Coke you got on your shelf. So just let me introduce myself, my name is Trump D. I like my mashed potatoes lumpy. Fake news, oh how I like to punk thee. That little sniper on the slow tin, he took a shot but he missed me. I don't fall, y'all, I'm like the ever-ready bunny. Still going strong and spunky. So put on your big boy pants. Come on, let's do the dance.
The Trumpy dance is your chance to do the Trump.
Come on, do the Trumpy Trump. Come on and do the Trumpy Trump. Check me out, y'all. We do the Trumpy Trump. Just watch me do the Trumpy Trump. Yeah. Do you know what I'm doing? We do the Trumpy Trump. Come on, everybody do the Trumpy Trump. It's time to do the Trumpy Trump. Yeah.
That's right, folks. Today is Monday Fun Day. I'm your host, Craig DeLuz, and we're going to have a good old time talking about the news of the weekend. Once again, one of the reasons why we celebrate with Donald Trump on Mondays and then with his Trumpy dance is because, you know, under the previous president, you knew there was not really going to be much to talk about come Monday because he pretty much slept through the weekend. I mean, by Thursday at 3 o'clock, he was done. And when I say 3 o'clock, I mean 3 o'clock Eastern. We know Biden was done. There was nothing going to happen over the weekend. And Monday, we figured he wasn't going to be up till about 11 o'clock. So, yeah, no, nothing was really going to be there to talk about on Monday. So, you know, we have a good old time talking about it because, well, hey, we know with Donald Trump, it's going to be on and cracking all weekend. There's going to be some fun stuff going on. So, you know, we celebrate. And this week, by the way, there's nothing is different this week. And this time, in a lot of these cases, it's not even Donald Trump. It's other stuff going on. But we all know that it's his actions. It's the things that he says. It's the things that he does that provokes reactions from other folks. And, well, let's just say their reactions aren't necessarily stuff in many cases. That's not always stuff that they should be proud of. But anyway, in any case, we're going to go ahead and get into the news here real quick, but we're going to start off the way we usually do, and that is with a quick shout out to our sponsors. We're going to start with the folks over at Hitman Industries. They make rifle and pistol caliber barrels that are available for you to purchase at any length. If you purchased an AR in the last few years, there's a good chance you already have one of their barrels, so why not get another one? So whether you're looking to do a brand new build or you're looking to rebarrel your current rifle, start your project, start your experience at hitmanindustries.net. Then we've got the California Republican Assembly working to help elect conservatives at all levels of government, from school board all the way up to President of the United States. In fact, Ronald Reagan once referred to CRA as the conscience of the Republican Party. You need to find out why. And the best way to do that is to visit them at cragop.org. That's cragop.org. If you want to be a part of California's future today, you got to join CRA. And next, we have the best in concealed carry tactical holsters available on the market. That would be from hogholsters.com. That's HAWG holsters.com. They like helping Americans wear guns. How much so? Well, they're willing to give you a nice little discount if you use the discount code The Rundown. All caps, no spaces, one word, just like it is right up there. You're going to get a nice little discount on your Hog holster. And then finally, we have the place where you can find all things tactical except the gun, and that would be at uscombatgear.com. They specialize in group sales, so you need to get your group together, your agency together, your friends together, your department together, whoever it is, and you need to get on over there. You need to go there. You need to check them out today. Once again, this is the place where you can find all things tactical except the gun, and that would be at uscombatgear.com. All right, and then finally, if you're watching this show live, if you're watching the show at 3 p.m. Pacific, 6 p.m. Eastern, then guess what? You're watching the show live, which means I'm following your comments right over here. And if I would love for you to share what you think with me and with our audience. Just let us know where you're watching us from. Let us know what you think about the program. Let us know what you think about my position on something. I would love to have you comment and to let me know what you think. Because, you know, for me, it's not just about getting the perspective of my audience, but in particular, if you disagree, well, that then just gives me an opportunity to mock you.
Oh, wow, is that a mockingbird?
Man, in the mockingbird?
Another mockingbird?
And yeah, we mock you not because we're mean. We mock you because it's fun. No, but seriously, and I think even Michael tell you, I am I'm the sort of person where if you prove me wrong, I will own it. But you got to earn it, right? You got to bring the receipts. I had some guy today decide that he was gonna he's a Trump hater guy I went to high school with, decided to tag me on my Facebook page, right? Decided to tag me so that it would show up on my homepage. Some rando on Reels talking about some story. Oh, well, Donald Trump's gonna give $6 million or free up $6 million to Iran. And I'm like, okay. And my response to him was, dude, stop tagging me with some rando who can't even get his facts straight, who basically doesn't even bother to bring receipts, right? So I looked up the story. Sure enough, yeah, no, that was one of the things that Iran was requesting. And the president made it very clear. Yeah, no, there will be no money exchanging hands. You ain't getting a dollar from us in order to make this peace happen. But, you know, and I sent him that message. And anyway, but the point being is that 9 times out of 10, lefties and some of these folks, man, and by the way, you would be surprised the huge percentage of people who get their news from Instagram and TikTok Reels. It is amazing how dumb some of these people are. And here's the thing. I'm not saying it's never a good source. I'm just saying that unless it's someone you have watched and you know and you fact check them and you've been watching and getting your information from them more than once, right? Like a bunch of times, and you fact check to make sure the information you're getting is correct. Even then, I don't use that as a credible source to anybody else. I don't use the facts, the information, or the data that they give me. I look it up for myself. And if I'm sending it to somebody else, I'm not just sending that thing. I'm sending all of the links, all of the information, all of the data stuff. I'm showing my receipts. But these morons, my father had a name for them. Free school dumb, and I can't say the last word, or I won't say the last word. But some of these fools, they're just dumb. They think that because somebody said it in front of a camera, in front of a phone, and posted it, that means it's true. It ain't true. By the way, if you are watching this, you know who you are, because this show does run on my personal Facebook page where you posted that stupid stuff. You know, it's funny. I keep thinking, I'm like, I mean, I'm not saying I was the brightest or the smartest or I got the best grades in school, but I know the kids who were in the accelerated classes because I was in there with them. I know the kids who were in the AP advanced placement classes because I was in there with them. And I'm finding it a little interesting when the people who were in the opposite of the AP classes going to decide to lecture me on the facts. I'm not saying, I'm just saying. Some of y'all are offended. I apologize. But truth hurts. Anyway, moving right along. Speaking of special classes, AOC, Ms. Cortez has decided, Andrea Ocasio-Cortez said something over the weekend that just, has said a few things recently. She's always known for saying stupid stuff. Let's just be honest. She just is. But she says it with a level of confidence, right? I mean, it's one thing to be stupid. It's another thing to be competent. I'm sorry. It's one thing to be stupid. It's another thing to be confidently stupid. Anyway, she made a couple of statements that I found to be very interesting. The first one I wanted to bring up, this was on some podcast where she made the statement that Black Americans, now I'm Black, just so in case y'all are wondering, I know my last name is Deleuze, but I'm Black. I'm Black and Italian. My brother and I are adopted. My father's from the Cape Verdean Islands. That's how we get, which is off the coast of Africa. That's how we have a Portuguese surname. Anyway, just for background information. I've heard a lot of Black history, but I've never, ever, 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 never, 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 ever heard in Black history that Black people created democracy. In fact, built it out of nothing.
And how Black Americans really created democracy in this country.
Right. That's exactly right.
How they literally made something from nothing. It is.
Anyway, I'm trying to figure this out. So, first of all, the idea of democracy goes back to Greece, to Athens. So, first of all, democracy is not even was not even a uniquely American thing, let alone a uniquely Black American thing. Then you go back and you realize that no, the founding fathers, first of all, they understood that democracy in themselves, pure democracy, is basically two wolves and a sheep deciding what to have for lunch. They understood the power of the mob, and they understood that if you give over to a pure democracy, our government over to a pure democracy, the consumers will eventually overtake and will overwhelm the producers. They realized that you needed to have some sort of protections for the minority, right? And now when I say minority, I'm not talking, ethnic minority. I'm talking the majority, the 50% plus one will always and eventually outvote the minority. So you have to find a way to protect the minority. And one of the ways in which they did that, for example, they have the separation of powers, right? You have checks and balances. One of the reasons why you have a bicameral legislature, so that you have one house that is where each state is represented and gets the number of representatives based on their population, and you have another house where every state has the equal number of representatives. That's how you protect the interest of the minority. They created the Electoral College once again to protect smaller states. If you got rid of the Electoral College and just did it based on popular vote, you could basically win the United States of America, win the presidency by winning simply a handful of cities, even here in these United States. So they wanted to protect the interest of the minority. And none of that. I mean, don't get me wrong. I'm not saying we didn't think about it. I'm not saying we couldn't have, but how did Black Americans create democracy? Even if you look at the system that we had before, once we were freed under Reconstruction, you saw tons of Black elected officials, people getting elected to local and state and federal offices in the South. They were already getting elected in the North. It actually wasn't until, it wasn't until after Reconstruction, prior to the Civil Rights Movement, when you started to see fewer Black elected officials. When, obviously in the South, they started instituting things like Black codes, and they started instituting Jim Crow and all of that. And they started making it harder and harder for Blacks to vote, because Democrats did not want Blacks to vote. They especially did not want them to vote for Republicans. But that was the sort of stuff that was going on back then. Anyway, but her understanding of history is completely off. Like, for example, this statement that she made about the founding fathers.
The American Revolution was against the billionaires of their time. This is in the heritage of our country, because America was founded. You look at Thomas Jefferson writing to Madison in revolt of British aristocracy. The American Revolution was against the billionaires of their time. It's actually the most American thing in the world for us to be fighting for the working class. And it's actually patently un-American to try to aspire to transform our country into a place of kings.
Okay, so no one's trying to transform the place into a place of kings. But let's talk about that. So I went to Grok, and I asked Grok, okay, hey, Grok, Who are the richest founding fathers? Let's find out. Were the founding fathers rich or were they poor? Let's talk about some of the founding fathers here real quick. It says here, George Washington. Washington was among the richest Americans of his time. He accumulated over 50,000 acres through land speculation and developed Mount Vernon. He married a wealthy widow, Martha Custis, diversified into wheat and profitable whiskey distillery, and owned slaves. His peak net worth was estimated around 525 to 594 million in today's dollars. How about John Hancock? You know, the guy, I mean, by the way, that was our first president and the leader of the Continental Army. Next is the first guy to sign the Constitution. Was he the first to sign the Constitution and Declaration of Independence? I feel really bad that I do not know that. Anyway, go ahead and let me remind me in the comments. Was he the first to sign the Declaration of Independence, or was he the first to sign the Constitution? Anyway, Hancock inherited a thriving Boston merchant business from his uncle and expanded it. He was a major financier of the Revolution, supporting the poor and outfitting troops. He ranked among the richest in the colonies, with estimates of his net worth around 9 million in modern terms at points. Robert Morris, often called the financier of the Revolution. Morris was a Philadelphia merchant and ship owner who traded tobacco and goods internationally. He personally helped fund the war effort, signed many notes, and was one of America's early millionaires, sometimes considered the richest man in the country during parts of the era. He later faced financial ruin and debtor's prison due to speculation. Benjamin Franklin rose from modest origins through printing and publishing of the Richard's Almanac, Pennsylvania Gazette. Poor Richard's Almanac. There we go. Through real estate and land speculation. In his early 40s, he was one of the wealthiest Americans and with an annual income equivalent to hundreds of thousands today. Let's go. Thomas Jefferson, the one she just talked about. Thomas Jefferson inherited land, expanded Monticello, and owned hundreds of slaves. His peak net worth was estimated around $200 to $285 million in today's dollars. So, once again, going back to what this lady that doesn't know what she's talking about is talking about, keep in mind that the revolution was initially started. It was about taxation without representation. It was because you had a government that was on the other side of an ocean that was taxing the people, primarily taxing the business class, primarily taxing those who produced, primarily by taxing those who were wealthy, and then ignoring and not giving them their ability to have any say in the affairs of government. So this is a lady who's just plain dumb. She is just plain, or ignorant. Let me say ignorant. I suppose I could say dumb only because she keeps making ignorant mistakes, and you would think she would inform herself before doing and saying things like this, but evidently that informing yourself thing doesn't seem to be a thing for her, even if she decides she's going to go and preach at a church.
I'm here today, brothers and sisters, with a simple message. We stand together, and we are not going back. What happens to Georgia happens to New York. What happens to Tennessee happens to California. What happens to Louisiana happens to all of us, Ebenezer. Because this is America. We are not divided by state. We are united by our humanity and common citizenship. Because no man can grant us our humanity. No law can erase it. No king, no system, and no president can strip it away, Ebenezer. Because it is not given by man, it is ordained by God. Thank you, Ebenezer Church.
Is she part of the new Christian nationalist movement? I thought the left was against Christian nationalism, right? I thought they didn't believe that. I thought if you believe that our laws, that our blessings, our rights are endowed to us by our Creator, I thought that made you a Christian nationalist. I thought that made you a bad person. That meant that you should have ended up on the Southern Poverty Law Center's website as a hater. Oh, now I get it. It's only if the person speaking believes what you believe what the left believes, right? The right to kill your child in the womb, the right to chop off the genitals of children, right? The right to take from those who've earned in order to give to those who haven't, right? The right to shut down someone's business in the name of some environmental god or religion. That must be the case, right? That sort of Christian nationalism is okay. Yeah, no, she is just plain dumb. And yes, we are separated by state. There is this thing called states' rights. In fact, the things that are, as the Constitution says, the things that are enumerated in those Constitution are the rights of the government and of the federal government that are enumerated in the Constitution are the powers of the federal government, and the rest go to the states. But I guess I'm assuming she's not smart enough to read that, or she's smart enough to read it and not mention it, not talk about it because she doesn't want to undermine her own points. Maybe that's the case. I don't know. But yeah, this woman needs, I will say one thing. She needs Jesus. I think she may be in the wrong church to find it, though. I definitely believe she may be in the wrong church to find it, because that was Ebenezer Baptist Church. That's the church. It used to be Martin Luther King Jr.'s church. It's now Raphael Warnock's church, who, interestingly enough, I was watching Michael Knowles today, and I did not realize he is still he is still collecting over, what is it, something like $125,000 a year salary from the church. So he's getting paid to be a congressperson, and he's getting paid to be a pastor. Wow. I mean, to be blasphemous as a senator and then go and try and claim you're preaching the word of God, I don't know. I've rarely heard him preach. The only words that I've ever heard him utter are not consistent with the word of God. But admittedly, I've never heard him preach. I find it very difficult to believe that he can stand at the pulpit and not contradict himself if he preaches the word of God. And if he does not preach the word of God, then he's probably getting up there and blaspheming, because, Democrats do that. Anyway, but see, here's the thing. They want to bend systems to be what it is that they want them to be. They don't care about the rule of law. They only care about the rule of law when it benefits them. They only care about institutions when the institution benefits them. They only care about rights when the rights benefit them. And a great example of that is something that's currently being proposed right now in Virginia. So, the Virginia Supreme Court just overturned the maps that were drawn by Democrats, the referendum that just passed. And the reason why they overturned it, and it wasn't necessarily because they believed that the maps were unconstitutional. I don't know. They didn't say that they weren't. At least I didn't read anywhere that they said that they weren't. What they said was, there's a process, and you violated the process in terms of getting us on the ballot. It's supposed to be, you're supposed to have the vote, and then you're supposed to have the election, and then you have it again. And they didn't follow that process. And so therefore it got thrown out. Well, now there are people in the Democratic Party who are saying, you know what, we need to get rid of some of these judges. We need to change the process. We need to impeach, or we need to find a way to get rid of some of these judges in order to overturn this particular ruling. In this article over at Axios, Virginia Dems discussed court overhaul after redistricting ruling. Democrats spent the weekend scrambling after the Virginia Supreme Court struck down the voter-approved redistricting plan, killing a congressional map that would have favored Democrats in 10 of the state's 11 districts. Find here. Okay, well, yeah, let me read a little bit more here. So anyway, it says the ruling sparked a slate of controversial proposals circulating about how the party could fight back. Among the most aggressive, forced the entire high court into retirement. The ideas began spreading Friday after the down ballot. A progressive outlet argued lawmakers could lower the retirement age for Virginia judges from 73 to 54 and install new justices to rehear the case. The possibility was reportedly discussed Saturday on a private call with Virginia's congressional Democrats and House Majority Leader Hakeem Jeffries, according to the New York Times. So was the idea to invalidate the 2020 constitutional amendment creating Virginia's independent redistricting commission by arguing that required public notices weren't properly posted at courthouses, the New York Times reports. The reason to return the map drawing power back to the General Assembly. All this requires the support of state congressional Democrats don't seem to have. Virginia House Majority Leader Scott Surrell told Virginia Scope on Monday that the drastic measures aren't going anywhere. The Virginia Elections Commissioner Steve Koski warned in previous court filing that changes made after Tuesday, May 12th, would throw the state's August 4th primary into chaos, risking ballot errors, voter confusion, and election delays. Whether Democrats stick to their U.S. Supreme Court appeal attempt or focus instead on flipping seats is under current maps. So what they're basically doing is they're gonna stick with their current plan, which is they're trying to appeal to the Supreme Court, but I don't really think that they are going to. I don't think it's going to work because the challenge here is it was thrown out based on Virginia law, on the process outlined in Virginia law. And I don't really see the Supreme Court throwing, I don't see them even, they're going to say, look, this is the wrong place. Virginia ruled on that. Your Supreme Court, Virginia ruled on that. But think about that, though. You had people who were in the House of Representatives. Now, at least the head of the Virginia House said, yeah, no, that's not happening. So at least the Virginia, the head of the Virginia House, the head Democrat in the Virginia legislature said, no, we're not doing that. But you had people in the people in Congress from Virginia. That's at least 6 people. Then you also had Hakeem Jeffries, right? The the minority leader in the House, the would-be speaker if they were to win the House, is talking about changing the rules as to how old a judge can be, or when you have to forcing retirement. And here's the funny part: it would have forced the retirement of the only 2 black judges on their Supreme Court. They got 2 black judges on the Supreme Court, and would have forced both of them to retire. It ain't about race. They don't care about race. What they care about is power. They don't care about creating. They don't care about black representation. What they care about is Democrat representation. They want more power. They want more Democrats, and they're going to do whatever they got to do to get it. Anyway, it is the hypocrisy is just, oh God, it is palpable. It is so thick in the air. One cannot, it's inescapable, right? Here's another thing of hypocrisy. This is what's so funny. So Bill Maher, once again, I will always say he is a classic liberal, but he is a liberal as well. Even he had to call out the left for their hypocrisy on guns, because they talk about they're against violence. They talk about they're against firearms because they're against violence. But in the end, when it comes to the opportunity to stand up against violence and things like Luigi Mangione, in that particular case, nah, They don't care.
Seems like 5 minutes ago when one of the big causes of the left was gun control, but now guns are the answer? I guess, because Luigi is a fucking rock star. He's the OG hot assassin. The young assassins coming up even name check him in their manifestos. When this guy was arrested for burning down a giant warehouse, he said it was like when Luigi popped that motherfucker. Before this college student threw a Molotov cocktail at Sam Altman's mansion, he talked about Luigiing some tech CEOs. And the asshole currently on trial for allegedly starting the big fire out here last year was Luigi's biggest fanboy. Good to see the kids have role models, huh?
Yep. Good to see that they have role models. And once again, here's a guy who engaged in violence with a firearm, murdered somebody because he was a CEO of a company, murdered him, and the left idealizes him, shot him to death. Right? He used a gun, so does that not make the gun evil? I thought the gun killed him. Right? Why are you not arguing? It was because this guy had access to a gun. That's why you got to kill him. Once again, the hypocrisy never ceases to amaze me. In good news, well, I don't know how good it is because I don't know how much it's going to affect us here in California. But in good news, Trump is actually eyeing, or at least discussing, the possibility of suspending the federal gas tax in order to help ease the price of gas. 'Cause let's be honest, gas is getting expensive. This is getting expensive all over the place. Here now in California, there are more than a few places where there is $6 a gallon gas and still going up. Just recently, one of the cheap places around here is at $5.99. Which means we're about to have $6 gas, even at the cheap places. The place where you don't really want to put the gas in your car because you don't know what else is in the gas, sort of place. But yeah, so it's expensive in California. By the way, at least $1.50 to $2 higher than any place else. Just period, and that's because, well, California. But anyway, Trump is actually eyeing a tax holiday for a period of time. It says here, this being reported by Newsmax, President Trump said Monday he wants to temporarily suspend the federal gas tax as Americans face surging fuel prices tied to the Iran war. In a phone interview with CBS News, Trump said the tax break would remain in place until prices began falling again. Quote, and yet we're going to take off the gas tax for a period of time, and when it goes down, we'll let the phase back in. Trump said, we'll be doing something on that. Federal excise tax currently stands at 18.4 cents per gallon on gasoline and 24.4 cents per gallon on diesel fuel. Suspending the tax would require the approval of Congress, which has previously shown little appetite for a gas tax holiday. Fuel prices have jumped more than 50% since the war in Iran began on February 28th, with the national average topping $4.52 per gallon Sunday, according to AAA. Now, once again, the national average is $4.52. The average here in California is, once again, as I said before, about $1.50 or more higher than that. So California, by the way, we're dealing with our own additional surge because we've now switched from our winter blend back over to our summer blend. We've also seen the shutdown of multiple refineries here in the state of California, with several others about to shut down, which means there's going to be less fuel refined here in California. We've seen new requirements that have been placed on those pulling gas out of the ground. So that's going to drive up costs here in California. So even when prices go down in the rest of the country, we may not see gas prices go down in California. I will not be surprised if we continue to remain higher, and if things go once again the way they're supposed to go, because let's be real. Right now, all of this is going to depend on what happens with the Strait of Hormuz. The president, president has to figure out how he's going to handle that. He's got to get that strait back open. He's got to get it so that those tankers who got oil can get out to the rest of the world. Our oil supply is only affected in that places that are not getting their oil from that usually get their oil from the Strait of Hormuz, they're buying from from our suppliers. They're driving up the cost for us. And that needs to get back open. Now, that's literally, but the challenge they're going to have is that's the only leverage right now that Iran has. That's literally it. They've got nothing else going for them. And the only question is, how bad are things going to be when they finally get them back open? That's literally going to be the only question that's left. Anyway, I'm hoping that gets handled soon because the good thing for me is my studio's here in my house. So I don't drive very far. I work from home. I got a couple of clients that I got to drive out and go see. My wife works like right up the street. Like she can walk to work. So we don't use a lot of gas. But I know that a lot of people do. And I know that a lot of stuff here in California is transported via gas. I mean, via gas-driven vehicles. And so I know the cost is expensive for a lot of folks. It drives up the cost of everything else. I really, 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 really would like to see that handled sometime soon. All right, folks. Well, that now brings us to our parting shots. Parting shots are brought to you by Hog Holsters. Go to hogholsters.com. Use the discount code The Rundown. All caps, no spaces. One word. Get your hog holster today. All right, now we talked about making changes to the Supreme Court. Well, evidently, by the way, all of our parting shots today are being brought to you by our friends over at the Babylon Bee, fake news that you can trust. Our friends over at the Babylon Bee are reporting that Democrats, well, they're going to look to unseat, or at least unseat one of the current Supreme Court justices because they're bringing back an old favorite. Half human, half robot justice enters Supreme Court, introduces herself as Ruth Bader Ginsburg. Yeah, I guess they figured the problem is that only gets you 5-4. That doesn't bring you all the way back, folks. Sorry, that ain't gonna work for you. Let's see, what do we got next? Oh, here we go. Iran asks Democrats for tips on running a country with a dead leader. Yeah, well, I'm sure Democrats can help them figure that one out. Oh, here's another one. New York offers to house hantavirus patients in nursing homes. Yeah, that's really, what's the word I'm looking for? That is very, very Cuomo-esque of them. Oh, here's another one. I am your father, reveals Trump to horrified Mark Hamill. Okay, that is an AI-generated image. It has to be, but that is hilarious. I guess you got to be a Star Wars fan to get that one, or at least know Star Wars to get that one. But that's a funny joke right there. And then finally, what luck? Dr. Fauci announces he's been working on a hantavirus vaccine the whole time. Oh, that would be incredibly, incredibly funny if it probably weren't actually true. All right, folks. Well, hey, that now brings us to the end of our program. But before we go, let's give another quick shout out to our sponsors. First, we have Hitman Industries. They make rifle and pistol caliber barrels available for you to purchase at hitmanindustries.net. We got the California Republican Assembly, the conscience of the Republican Party, at cragop.org. We've got the best in concealed carry tactical holsters available on the market at hogholsters.com. That's HAWG holsters.com, helping Americans wear guns. And then finally, we have the place where you can find all things tactical except the gun, and that would be at uscombatgear.com. All right, folks, that's going to be, once again, now that's going to be it for today's program. We appreciate you tuning in. We appreciate you liking and sharing the program and encouraging your friends to do the same. We will be back tomorrow on Taco Tuesday. Till then, y'all have fun. Y'all stay safe. We will see you. Yana.